This thing just keeps going click, 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 just waiting for it to bust open. I'm going to do the splits like Jean-Claude Van Damme with a chainsaw. Today we're going to see how we can do everything with no machines, freehand milling, few little bars, moving this beast of a log around. It's about 6 meters long. It's all hung up a little bit, and we're going to try and set it all up here so that we can rip some nice beams out of it. Let's check it out. Okay, so I've already made my end cut there at about the 6 meters or just past 6 meters. Whenever you're milling something, if you want a 6 meter beam or 6 meter boards, you want to go a little bit longer so that you have room to play when you get down to, making all of your timber. I've cleaned up my area a little bit. Now, we've got these two big hooks here that are a bit of a pain in the ass, and there's lots of rocks and stuff in there. So I might use someone else's chain. So the idea is to get this out there. Now, we don't have any machines. I don't even have any ropes or anything here. So I need to be a little bit sensible about it, plan ahead. And because we've got some clearance underneath here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some logs and set myself up, because I want this to be off the ground, because when I come through and mill it, I don't want my chain to be in the dirt, obviously. So we're going to take advantage of the high position of this tree, set up some logs before I make my other cut over there, and hopefully it's not too dead. I reckon we're going to get some wood out of it. We don't like wasting anything here. Waste not, want not. So I'm just in the planting process, and I reckon I can get it that way pretty easily. Let's just have a look. Before I do that though, something to think about is the tree's probably about 25 inches thick. The higher the tree when you're trying to freehand mill, the harder it is, because you've got to have your chainsaw up high, and it's quite uncomfortable unless you mount on top of the tree and then cut it from there. But because we're building with it, we're not interested in having live edge to live edge for big table slabs or anything. Probably what I will do is set it up, and then I'll just split it down the middle into two halves and then rip my boards out of that. But I still don't want it to be too high off the ground, so I'm going to be a bit picky and choosy with the size of the logs that I'm going to put underneath here to lift it up. All right, so we want to get our logs underneath here so that when this thing does go, that it's landing on something and we're staying off the ground, because it's going to be hard to pick it up afterwards. But you can see this is quite short. It's all I could find over there. I'll have to go for a bit of a walk, but I'm going to extend it so that if this thing does go and it starts rolling, I want it to stay on logs. I don't want to fight trying to get it back up again. So I'm going to chock it all up as best I can. This side over here too. Careful of snakes, careful of snakes. Now you can see once this thing falls down and over there, it thickens up. It's pretty straight, but it thickens up a little bit down the bottom. So sometimes you get it onto a log, and then as it opens down the bottom into the roots, that end is touching the ground. If you have that kind of issue, or if you just plan a little bit in advance, what you can do is just prepare another log at the end of this one that's slightly higher, because when you have one log and then you have a little bit of a step up, it's quite easy to roll the log onto the higher one. So you just got to plan a little bit so that you're not mucking around later, because it's heavy and it's hard work. All right, let's keep going. I've got to cut this out, but it's just full of rocks. It seems like it's pretty wedged in there, doesn't it? So the best thing to do in a situation like this is use somebody else's chainsaw. But something I always like to carry is a wire brush, just to clean everything off when I am making my cuts so I don't damage my chain. Maybe that's why I'm bald too. Got to stop using the wire brush. Let's get it done. That wasn't so bad, was it? All right, a few more logs in here just to extend this. It is kind of downhill, so once that starts rolling, it's not going to want to stop. I'm sure these are long enough. Pretty happy with that. That one's going to be okay. And we'll put this one here for Justin, just in case you didn't know that. All right, so I've got my logs in place. I've got about 2.5 meters. Now I am aware that this is kind of slightly going downhill, and once the trees start to roll, they tend to not stop until they want to. So I am kind of wary of that, because I don't want this to fall off the log. Now, as I was saying earlier, when the log is a bit thicker down the bottom and it's touching the dirt, you don't have to worry too much about it now, because you can always extend these supporting logs and then put bigger ones later on. The main thing is that you get the bulk of it off the ground. So something else I'm paying attention to, I don't want any branches or anything in these logs. I don't want like a branch sticking up here, obviously, because then the log's not going to roll anymore. So what I'd like to do now is probably find a wedge kind of thing and just set some wedges up here in case it does start rolling. I'll have some chocks on the ground that'll just block it from continuing and losing my log off the side. I'll go find some and I'll be back in a sec. All right, so these are just higher than my logs, my supporting logs. So I'm hoping that's going to kind of act as a wedge should this thing start rolling. All right, that's wedged up. This one's a little bit too low. So I just found another little piece, like another little wedge, put that underneath. Beautiful little ramp there. High-tech stuff, this is high-tech stuff. And one more down here, I'm not sure if you can see in the camera, but it's there, we're safe. All right, I've kind of done it as best I can. It all seems to be pretty lined up. These are all lined up, so when it does come to a stop, it's all working together. And ready to make my cut and start moving this log. Let's check it out. I just do the same thing on this end. I just want to clean all these rocks and shit out. No one likes sharpening their chain more than they have to. This bark's about 2 inches thick. I probably should have bought a little axe or something that I could just chip away at this and make it really nice and clean, but here we are. There are better tools for the job. I'm pretty happy with that. Let's see how this goes. All right, as I said, I've cleaned it as much as I can, and I'm just very aware that a lot of long grass here and dirt. It's just clear of the dirt. I thought it was in the dirt, but it's just clear of it, so that's good. So it's just good to assess and just check everything properly, because you don't want your chain and bar to get stuck in the dirt, you know. So I just did a quick, this side's touching slightly. Now by assessing, I know that the part of the tree on this side is in the dirt, so I'll just be more careful when I finish my cut. And I'll just talk about it a little bit more as we go. Just being aware of where your tip is. You don't want to go in the dirt and sharpen your chain again. Pretty simple stuff, you just got to take your time. I mean, what else are you going to do today? All right, it is kind of falling down. It's starting to compress on top here, which is good. So my bar's not going all the way through. I'm going to come to the other side and then do the same. So what I've done is I've cut across here. I've come down with the tip. I've just cut enough fibers up here so that it would compress. And then I came past it. I've come down with my tip. I've bored through as far as I could go. And now I'm getting down to the part where I'm close to the dirt. So I've gone down as horizontal as possible with my chainsaw, with my chain, staying out of the dirt. But now, because the point of the tree goes into the dirt, I'm just going to use my tip and just feel it so that till it loosens. Then I'll come to the other side and follow my curve here and then finish the cut from on that side. Let's just have a look. All right, so you can see just taking your time, weakening the log as you go. The tree kind of shows you what it wants to do. You're just looking for openings, where it's compressing and where it's opening. All right, we're pretty good. I'm gonna start trying to roll this down here and get ready for milling. Let's do it. Am I talking really loud? I've got my headphones on. I feel like I'm screaming into this microphone, but the microphone's just here. The camera's over there. It's like I'm trying to talk to the camera. What a moron. Bit of an anticlimax. I hammered this thing in and I just moved to see how the log was going before pushing play on the thing, and it just popped off. Anyway, it all kind of worked. I'm up off the ground on both ends. So this is just like a hook and bar, and you can just see, so it's quite easy to move a log by yourself. You can see how easy it is. I'm not doing any force there, you know. And so I just moved it a little bit and the thing popped off onto the logs. Anyway, I feel like it's sitting pretty good there. And this is just a log mover. This is like for smaller logs, but it works for bigger logs, obviously. I just had to hammer it. Normally you just have a smaller log and it hooks underneath, but it's got a nice sharp point, so I just hammered it in so it bites. Make sure you clear your bark out, and it's pretty easy to move. That's how you move your logs on your own with no machines. All right, I'm gonna clear my bark here. I'm gonna chalk my line down the center, and I'm gonna split this thing down the middle. So I've got two nice halves to work with. We are building, as I said, and then I'll get all my 2x4s, 2x6s, whatever I want, all my beams out of the two halves. It makes it much easier to work with. So I'm gonna mill from that end coming this way. Just be easier because that end's a little bit thicker. And I can start on the ground down there, and then I'll probably have to stand up on the log and come along. I'm going to put my 36-inch bar on so I'm more upright and more comfortable while I'm milling. Pretty simple stuff, lots of fun, and you can be really safe if you just take your time with it, assess everything, and move forward slowly. All right, I'm going to clear the bark up, chalk a line, let's mill this thing. Make sure you always wear glasses. I'll just use the axe just to clean up the last little bits, just so I don't want my chalk line to be too obstructed. Now, it's good to note here, we're only splitting it down the middle. We're not too fussed about it being a perfect cut, unless you're a bit of a perfectionist like I am. You know, you want it to be pretty good. But the reason why it's okay when you're splitting it down the middle into two halves is, even if it's a little bit kind of wavy or whatever, I mean, you kind of don't want it to be. There's no reason why it should be. But the reason why it doesn't make a difference is because you're going to split it into two halves, and then you're going to mill your boards out of that. And then you're going to take those boards and then take your 2x4s or 2x6s out of it using a circular saw or whatever machinery you have, or your chainsaw as well. That's one way of doing it. It's the way I like to do it. It also depends on the place, depends on the job, what you have at hand. So we're quite far from where we're going to build a small little deck. When I say far away, I mean maybe a few hundred meters. So if I'm going to have to carry them on my shoulder or put them on a trailer, it's much easier to handle smaller boards rather than these big slabs. Like I said, we don't have any machinery and we don't need any. A good idea to think about, you know, how you're going to move all your timber around and all that sort of stuff. It makes it much easier. It also makes a more accurate milling when you want really nice straight timber, because you have these two halves. It's less cutting, and the main thing is this isn't too bad, this one really, but there was another tree that I did for explaining this in my course. The tree was as thick as it is on that end, and it was quite high. So with my saw, I'm holding it up high here. In that case, you kind of want to build like a bit of a scaffold so that you're not engaging the dogs when you're milling, because once the dogs engage, it takes the form of the tree and you get these S kind of cuts, you know. So you want to think about that stuff. The other way to do it, which is what I'm going to probably do now, is start here. Once I get out to about here, my bar will be out to here. I'll just get up on top of the log and I'll just mill it like this. So that's why I'm gonna take my 36-inch bar and put it on my saw so that I'm more upright and I'm not down here. That's 25 inches. This is probably close to 25 inches, maybe a little bit less in some parts. And down there, it's definitely thicker. Although if I was ripping boards out of this live edge to live edge, it wouldn't be so bad because I'm not so high, you know. But I would still put a longer bar on there so that I'm not coming so vertical with my cuts popping out the bottom. You don't want to just have 25-inch bar and a 25-inch log where your tip's just popping out, because it means you don't have this nice long ramp and this nice smooth cutting, which is what gives you really nice straight cuts. Your kerf, what I like to call the groove, you build your groove and then the chain just stays in there. It's really simple. You're just pushing up this ramp, the chainsaw cuts down, and it's really easy to get nice straight cuts. But when you're battling with the weight of the chainsaw up high, trying to mill, and your bar is only just as long as the tree is thick, that means you don't have this nice long ramp built up in there, and you have to come more vertical so that your bar pops out the bottom in a vertical plane, if that makes sense. So with a longer bar, it allows you to be more on this kind of angle where you can maintain this nice ramp and still pop out the bottom and have clearance, and your spikes, your dogs aren't engaging in the tree, because it's got all these undulations. So when they engage in the tree, then it kind of like puts a bit of pressure one way or the other, and you start to get these essy kind of cuts, and you don't want that. You just want your bar to be free, so then you build your groove and you just stay in it like a good drummer. Once you get in the groove, you stay in the groove. All right, I'm going to clean this up and I'm going to chalk my line and I'm going to split this down the guts. I mean, there's just nothing more fun than this, is there? That didn't work. I've got to try that again. I mean, there's nothing more fun than this, is there? Nah, not going to work. All right, you got to make sure you chock everything up. It just started to wobble as I was walking on top there. It's not dangerous or anything. I wasn't going to move anywhere, but you don't want the tree to be moving while you're milling. So I'm just going to put some chocks underneath here so it doesn't move. The other thing is I left holding wood, so you don't want to just rip all the way through at the end. You want to leave some holding wood so the whole thing stays together. But these are just trees that have uprooted, so I don't know what the moisture content is. We always try and fell trees like the third quarter moon or the half moon waning or less, so a lot of the moisture comes out of them, means that they stay they're a lot more dense, they stay a lot stronger and a lot straighter. But this thing is bending open. We've milled some trees before when I was in Chile, actually in Patagonia, and milling some beams out of some trees, and the thing just bananaed open because it was just the wrong time. So I'm just wary of that because that's split open now, which means that whole end is kind of loose. So as I'm getting to that end, this is going to want to start opening. All right, just be careful of that stuff if you're going to do this at home. So ideally you would leave more holding wood and not have this issue. I can feel it as I'm going, I can feel it just pulling open slowly. So if it gets worse up there, I'm probably just going to get a strap. I'll strap up that end so it doesn't bust open on me, and then we'll just keep on going. Let's keep on going. This thing just keeps going click, 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 and it's just opening. It's like 4 or 5 inches open down there now. I'm just waiting for it to bust open. I'm going to do the splits like Jean-Claude Van Damme with a chainsaw. However, what you don't normally get, because this doesn't normally happen, you want to leave more holding wood, is you get a bit of a sneak peek of how nice your cut looks. So that's pretty cool. And it's looking very beautiful in there, very nice. No machete hacks. I'm happy about that. You don't normally get to see it until the very end. Oh yeah, splitting. All right, so you can see here, this is the holding wood I left, which wasn't too much. I should have left more. I've had that trouble on this property a lot with these trees that have kind of fallen over by themselves. So that's just split open, and you can look at this. It's like bananaing open now, you know. So normally it doesn't really happen that way. It shouldn't pull apart so much. And that's just got a lot to do with the moisture content in the trees. 99.9% sure it's because of the moisture content in them. Let's keep going. All right, I'm gonna strap it up. I don't want to hurt myself. I need to be silly. Ah, it looks so nice. So as I'm milling, every time I come back down to the bottom, it just goes. So that's what you don't really want. I mean, it's not a big deal. I've just got to be careful, that's all. I've got some straps on it now. It's not moving. I've made a bit more of an effort to chock it up. It rocks a little bit, but it's not going anywhere. I feel completely comfortable with it. I'm just gonna pop out the other end of this tree. It's a little bit of deadwood now I'm feeling. You can see it's a little bit rotten in there. I can feel it as I'm milling. All right, the moment of truth. So now I'm clear all the way through. You want to make sure we've got our supporting logs on both sides so that when this thing kind of butterflies open, it's supported. Looks like a pretty nice split to me. Happy with that. I'm pretty happy with that. All right, move these things out. Should I put the camera there for the dramatic shot? I think we should. Now, it's not as pleasing when you just use the chainsaw, but anyway, straps it is. All right, watch your legs. Those straps worked well, man. Oh, that was dramatic. The blue's ruining the nature shot, but anyway. All right, split in half. That one moved a bit too much. Oh, we can fix that. So you can see there's no like machete hacks. That's quite a smooth cut all the way through. We'll do a bit of a close-up now. But there's no, you know, we're not hacking into the sides because we're just building this groove, this canal, and then it's just worked. All right, they're a bit lopsided because of how they're fallen, but you can see there's no machete hacks or anything, you know. A lot of time when people are freehand milling, just because they're pulling back on it, they're not always moving from one place to the other, from one side to the other, allowing the chainsaw to do the work. and you get all these machete hacks. But look, it's nice and straight. You can see it's all just smooth cutting. You actually get this really nice pattern when you get the circle work going. Once you get the technique down, you know, it's just really nice straight cuts. I'm pretty happy how that came out, even though it was kind of bowing open, you know. And so you can get them pretty good. Look at this side, it's beautiful too. You know, I mean, apart from it splitting and bowing, but it's nice, flat, straight cuts. And that's what you can do with just your own two hands. It's a lot of timber there. You know, for half a day's work and having a lot of fun, that's a lot of timber. Well, that was a pretty successful day in the end. Pretty simple stuff. You don't really need much to be able to work with trees and timber, your own two hands and a chainsaw. Freehand milling is something so easy to learn. You can, you know, rip anything and get really nice finishes. As you can see, now I'm going to level these out and then I'll rip some boards out of them and some beams and whatever we're going to use to do this little bit of work that we're doing around here. It seems like a lot and it seems like a hard technique, but it's not. You just start the groove and you stay in the groove. You're just doing the same motion. If you watch the video again, or if you noticed that it's just the same motion over and over again, you're just allowing the chainsaw to drop down, you go back up the ramp and drop down again. It's really simple. So if you're kind of a little bit chainsaw savvy, get out and try it. Use some smaller logs. You don't have to go into such big logs. But there's just so much timber, available timber and materials for your woodworking projects or your off-grid stuff or whatever you're doing, you know. And even if you're not doing anything, it's just fun to use chainsaws. Hope you enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe and do all that sort of stuff, and check out Freehand Milling courses. I also have a chainsaw fundamentals course where we go through holding the saw properly. We do a really big deep dive into all the body positions, being safe with the chainsaw, including deep dives in compression and tension with real life examples outside, chainsaw maintenance, sharpening the chain, just everything you really need, right through to basic cuts. We go deep into bore cuts, how to use them in different situations, and even kickback exercises to develop confidence. So it's 2 courses bundled together until about the middle of August 2024 at a really ridiculously low price if you want to learn all this stuff. And there's just so many things you can do with a chainsaw once you realize how versatile this tool is. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Stay safe and I'll see you next time. Cheers.